Yashodanandana Vrajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Danta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindi ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Govinath Shamakunda Rakunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Shri Mayapur Dham ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Tulsi Maharani ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Grantaraj Śrimad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're continuing in the third canto, 22nd chapter, verse 18. Tam prartayantim lalana lalamam. Tam prartayantim lalana lalamam. Asevita Shri Charanaira Drishtam. Vatsam Manor Uchapada Svasaram. Konanu Manyeta Buddho Biya. Konanu Manyeta Buddho Biyatam. Tam prartayantim lalana lalamam. Asevita Shri Charanaira Drishtam. Vatsam Manor Uchapada Svasaram. Konanu Manyeta Buddho Biyatam. Others? Tam prartayantim lalana lalamam. Asevita Shri Charanara Drishtam. Uchapada Svasaram. Konanu Manyeta Buddho Biyatam. Ladies. Tam prartayantim lalana lalamam. Asevita Shri Charanaira Drishtam. Vatsam Manor Uchapada Svasaram. Konanu Manyeta Buddho Biyatam. Tam prartayantim lalana lalamam. Asevita Shri Charanaira Drishtam. Vatsam Manor Uchapada Svasaram. Konanu Manyeta Buddho Biyatam. tam prartayantim lalana lalamam. Asevita Sri Charanayara Drishtam Vatsam Manor Uchabara Swasaram Konanu Manyeta Buddho Bihatam. Tam, her. Prartayantim, seeking. Lalana lalamam, the ornament of women. Asevita Sri Charanai, by those who have not worshipped the feet of Lakshmi. Adrishtam, not seen. Vatsam, beloved daughter. Mno, of Swayambhuva Manu. Uchapataha, of Uttanapada. Svasaram, sister. Kaha, what? Na annumanyeta, would not welcome. Buddha, wise man. Abhiyatam, who has come of her own accord. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. What wise man would not welcome her? The very ornament of womanhood, the beloved daughter of Swayambhuva Manu and sister of Uttanapada. Those who have not worshipped the gracious feet of the goddess of fortune cannot even perceive her. Yet she has come of her own accord to seek my hand. Purport. Kardama Muni praised the beauty and qualification of Devahuti in different ways. Devahuti was actually the ornament of all ornamented, beautiful girls. A girl becomes beautiful by putting ornaments on her body. But Devahuti was more beautiful than the ornaments. She was considered the ornament of the ornamented, beautiful girls. Demigods and Gandharvas were attracted by her beauty. Kardama Muni, although a great sage, was not a denizen of the heavenly planets, but it is mentioned in the previous verse that Vishvavasu, who came from heaven, was also attracted by the beauty of Devahuti. Besides her personal beauty, she was the daughter of Emperor Swayambhuva and sister of King Uttanapada. Who could refuse the hand of such a girl? Ends the purport. Om Agyana Timrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Kam Karoti Bhajalam Pankam Kamati Jatkripatamam Vandesh. This is one of those purports that challenge. What do you say in respect of this particular verse? Particularly in this association. If I were in a different company, if I were in a different arena, I could go on and just talk about how beautiful women are and how they are beautiful and all the beautiful aspects of women. And I mean, that's what we're talking about. The verse is about how beautiful women are. What makes a woman beautiful is what is discussed here. And also the power of a woman's beauty.
how the beauty of a woman can attract gods. The Gandharva is attracted. What is the previous verse? Is the Gandharva Vishvavasu is just observing the beauty of Devahuti and falls off. What is he? He falls off his airplane or something like that. In Western history, there's a famous story of beauty, and I can't remember exactly how but Cleopatra. Cleopatra was considered to be extraordinarily beautiful, and what is the face that sank 1,000 ships or something like that? How does it go? Anyway, I think that's what it was. The face that sank 1,000 ships. She was so beautiful, but and I don't remember the whole story. But there was kings involved and people involved, and they fought and ultimately wars. And Helen of Troy was another such. She was the face that sank 1,000 ships. Okay, sorry. Cleopatra, she caused some other kind of disasters, as far as I know. But so yes, the beauty of women. Kardama Muni, on the other hand, is a sage. He is explaining here that she's extraordinarily beautiful, but he also brings in other qualities. It's not just Devahuti's beauty that is attracting Kardama. Kardama also makes reference here to her character and her quality as the son of, the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu and the sister of Uttanapad. So the qualities of a woman, I was thinking, what do I talk about in this particular verse? Because anyway, I didn't think it was appropriate to go on and on about women's beauty. But beauty is not the only quality of women that is extolled in the Vedic scripture. And I was looking into this, and I began thinking about, well, Krishna mentions something about the qualities of women in the Bhagavad Gita, where he describes, and now one of our scholars here, I'm not sure, it's in the, which chapter? Yeah, it is, where of women I am intelligence, something. You can't hear. It's so loud. Anyway, maybe you just come closer, because what is the verse? Of women I am intelligence. Anyone want to look it up? And this is an interesting, what does that mean? Of women I am intelligence. What does that actually mean? You found it? Oh, no, it's all of these things. Among women I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. So here we have qualities. Now, so I was curious about this, so I was researching and came across a very nice explanation by one of our really, I would say, profound scholars, Chaitanya Charan. He writes a blog called The Spiritual Scientist. And maybe just a little bit. And there he points out a few interesting things. One is that these nouns in Sanskrit nouns have gender. So a noun can be like in various languages. I think in Spanish also. I don't know, in Russian is there gender to the nouns? Right? French is, English we're kind of, we don't, we don't care. But I don't know, that's just the Germanic part of us, I guess. But I mean, Germans, they may have, I think they have gender in the nouns. But somehow the Saxons, they said forget it, or Anglos, whatever. So you'll have therefore you have different prepositions, la, and so on and so forth. So similarly in Sanskrit. And so all of these, they're feminine nouns. Okay, so that's one perspective. But then I was researching a little bit more, and we find earlier in this process of creation, the coming forth of the universe, that Daksha has daughters who get married. And these are referenced in that as the daughters of Daksha that are married to Dharma. So Dharma, or the principles of righteousness, who the personality who represents and who in one sense brings forth, because all of these personalities in the beginning of creation, they have names like this, and I'll just read from here. Just one second. This is. Find it now. Yes. So this is in the Vishnu Purana. This same activity of the coming forth of the universe is described, and it's described that Daksha had 24 daughters, and they're named as Shraddha, faith. So let's see which ones are here. Not all of them are mentioned here, but there's Shraddha, faith, Lakshmi, prosperity, Dhriti, steadiness, Tushti, resignation, Pushti, thriving, Meda, intelligence, Kriya, action and devotion, Buddhi, intellect, Lajja, modesty, Vapu, body, Shanti, expiation, Siddhi, perfection, Kirti, fame. These 13 daughters of Daksha, Dharma, righteousness, took to wife. So Krishna is explaining here in bringing out these that of women, meaning of the qualities of women, of the characteristics of women. These are especially understood to be representative of his power and his great quality. This whole chapter is devoted in the Gita to help us relate to Krishna by seeing him in the qualities of this world, to seeing in the qualities that we experience on our day-to-day, how we can connect those to Krishna. And of course, the most one that we I am the taste of water, and Prabhupada would use that term. Rasoham. He would even explain that even for a drunkard, the drunkard could relate to Krishna and say, "Oh, this taste, the taste, well, that's Krishna." So in somehow or other, we can relate everything to Krishna. Somehow or other, everything gets... So similarly, we should be able to, in this particular verse of the Gita and of these descriptions, we can understand how the qualities of women that are attractive, the attractive qualities of women, and all of these are so attractive. It's not just the beauty of a woman that attracts a man, especially a one like Kardama Muni. Rather, all of these qualities, in fact, he mentions even Lakshmi in the verse, but we can see Shraddha, faith, Driti, steadiness, Tushti, resignation, Pushti, thriving, Meda is intelligence. So, which is here, we have the same things. Meda, intelligence, Driti, firmness, Smriti, which is interesting because Smriti is also one of the daughters of Daksha. But yes, so it's not just the ones married to Dharma that Krishna mentions, because the others were married to the various munis. Okay? And they are mentioned, Chama, right? Which ones are mentioned here? Chama, Driti, Smriti, and Meda, and Kirti, and Shri. So, Krishna particularly brings these out. But all of these qualities are found in celebrated women who we learn about in the Śrimad Bhāgavatam. So, one woman that we can also speak a little bit about today, we're going to have a little time for discussion later, maybe on this particular topic, but I thought because we were informed today that it is Janu Saptami. So Janu, or Janavi, I should say, is another illustrious lady in our pantheon of illustrious ladies, and she is none other than Ganga Devi herself. Why is she known as Janavi? Because she is considered the daughter of Janu. And why is she the daughter of Janu? And who is Janu? So just a little background, fill up our cultural, how you should say, our cultural memory of personalities in our tradition, in the Bhagavatam and so on. Janu doesn't have a lot of... I was looking to see if Janu appears even in the Bhagavatam. I'm not sure if he does. I didn't find anything. But Janu, we know more about Janu from Navadvip and Mayapur and Navadvip Dham Mahatmya. But there are some other references to Janu in other Puranas that initially, as the story goes, Janu was performing a great sacrifice, and Ganga approached him and in this case, unlike Devahuti, who approaches Kardama and is accepted because of her extraordinary quality, Ganga was rejected by Janu, and thus, in anger, flooded his sacrificial arena, and thus Janu got very disturbed with her and said, one day I will condense and I will consume you. Which is what happens, is that when Ganga is proceeding from the upper worlds down to Sagar to save the sons of Prachina, who is it? Who are the sons? They're the sons of, not Prachinabhari. Who? Anyway, someone can look up. Were burnt to ashes by Kapila. So who can remember everything? Some people can, but not me. So when he was bringing Bhagirath was bringing Ganga down, she passed by the ashram of Janu Muni in the area we now know as Navadvip, which was also Navadvip at the time. And but being eager and forceful and to reach Sagar, she neglected again Janu and swept away his Ashman cup. And this was too much for Janu. So Janu said, all right, now's your time. And he, out of his yogic power, he was able to condense the Ganga into this much and swallow the whole Ganga. So now what? Now what's going to happen? So demigods appear, and Brahma appears, and various people come and beg with Janu to have mercy. And then, so he lets Ganga out through his ear. Thus, Ganga becomes the daughter of Janu. And thus she's known as Jahnavi. And we sing, Jahnavi tata gane, Jagamano loba. So Jahnavi tata, by the banks of the Jahnava, or Jahnavi River, the Ganga, Gauranga Mahaprabhu is, yes. Sagar, yes, Sagar. So today is especially auspicious for worshiping Mother Ganga. So that was just a little aside on Janu Saptami. So coming back though to the qualities of the female qualities that are attractive according to the descriptions here. All of these different qualities, beauty is just one of those. The other qualities are perhaps even more important. Steadiness, faith, intelligence. Now, one may wonder that, but aren't women supposed to be less intelligent? We hear that, right? And we've heard that a few times. Women are less intelligent. So then how is it that they're considered, they're named here as intelligence? This poses a dilemma, because we actually experience that when it comes to certain measures of intelligence, there's really no difference between men and women. If you measure intelligence by, for example, verbal ability or mathematical ability, there are some slight differences in I think what is spatial or something. There's in how men tend to be able to assemble and spatial things. That's why they're good at mechanics and things like that, because they're a bit more intelligent, so to speak, when it comes to fitting things together, right? But when it comes to speech, when it comes to logic, the core intelligent capacities of men and women are basically the same. So what is it what is meant when we hear women are less intelligent? There can be many different explanations of this. One is that there's a strong, and women have these qualities here. Amongst these qualities that are being described here, let me get back to it here. Where is it? Where was this headed? Yeah. So faith and prosperity and resignation and thriving, action, devotion, modesty, expiation, so on, affection, humility. There is a certain emotional capacity. I was just listening this morning to the story of Ashwatthama, who has been caught by Arjuna, and after having heinously murdered the sons of Draupadi. And Prabhupada is speaking how Draupadi, she asks for Ashwatthama to be saved. And he presents that this quality of Draupadi is based on her nature as a woman. Her womanly nature is such that she feels, she has this compassion that allows her, or kind of compels her to overlook what, on the basis of what others might consider to be a more intelligent response, she responds with a more compassionate response. Now, this quality of compassion, this quality of this nature of being compassionate, being kind, which truly nurturing, which are the qualities that women have in greater amount and must have in order to mother children who can be very, very demanding and difficult. A mother must have the ability to feel and to overlook what a man might consider to be too much and give love unconditionally. So this is one way to look at this, is that a woman's nature of nurturing and compassion may, from a man's perspective, seem to be less intelligent. That's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it, because Krishna groups women with women and men of a certain nature together. He says Stri, Vaishya, Sudra. So he only leaves out certain very highly qualified men. So that's another way of looking at it. I would propose that the differences of intelligence between men and women are really in terms of a certain category of intelligence, which has to do with administration and organization and so on. And to some extent, in a general fashion, what we would call the Brahminical and Kshatriya activities. Now, of course, these are all generalizations too, so that's another problem when we come to these statements. There are many generalizations in our scriptures, and there are exceptions. There's also exceptional statements which we may confuse to be general. There's one part of the Nectar of Devotion, I think it's chapter 13, where the glories of residing in of Mathura, Vrindavan, are being described. And how one who enters into Mathura, Vrindavan, immediately feels ecstasy and is overwhelmed and completely transported to the spiritual world. Now, I have been to Mathura, Vrindavan. I've been to Vrindavan. How many you've been there? You've lived there for some time. Many of you've not been there yet, I don't think. Okay. Now, I have to say that when you first enter into Vrindavan, in the old days, it was really transforming. Today, when you enter into Vrindavan, you don't even notice that you've entered into Vrindavan for quite some time because you're surrounded by the same traffic, the same buildings, the same characteristics that you just left in Delhi. It's hardly any difference, right? Not right. I mean, you know, you all of a sudden you kind of we're, yeah, really? Where? So then one may question, you know, what is this a exaggeration? So Prabhupada gives a very special answer. He says that, no, it's not an exaggeration because some people experience this, but not necessarily all. So just as we have descriptions of generalities, we also have descriptions of specifics that can be taken as generalities. So we have to be careful when we read Shastra, to read Shastra in context, to be able to put things into the various contexts. And especially when it comes to the qualities of women, we have to put them into the context of devotional service, the context of the real character of the jiva, which is spirit soul. The external body is not who we are. So, those were some thoughts. I did want to perhaps draw attention to one of the additional qualities, though, that goes along with beauty in women, that makes that Krishna has created, you could say, in order to balance the power. Because we started this discourse about talking about the power of a woman's beauty. You know, the Helen of Troy, correct? The face that launched 1,000 ships. You know, her beauty and her attractiveness enamored. Who was the king? I can't remember. Anyway, there's all kinds of characters, and such that a huge battle took place over her. So, therefore, a woman's beauty needs to be also accompanied by shyness. Then that's one of the other qualities, lajja, the quality of modesty. That is somehow, today we find women, generally speaking, are very, interested in appearing beautiful, but they often lack the modesty and shyness that needs to accompany that beautiful presentation. Otherwise, they can cause a lot of problems in society because men are pretty stupid in many ways. I mean, you can say, men often they lose their intelligence over the beauty and attractiveness of a woman. And so, therefore, a Vedic culture, a Vedic society, stresses that women should ornament themselves, not only with fine clothing and fine ornaments, but also with the ornaments of modesty and shyness. These things go together and thus produce a healthy society. So, those are some thoughts that I had about this topic. It was not easy for me to to consider what to speak about in this respect. So I hope that I'm able to bring out something that's of some interest. And I've not offended anyone in the process also. Hare Krishna. So any comments, questions?
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you for the class. I think you took so much out of that passage, even though it was, difficult to speak on. So one of the things I wanted to ask about is also something that Hansarupa Prabhu was talking about in his class on Sunday. But how we see the transcendental, in places or in all of our activities in Krishna consciousness when sometimes it doesn't seem like so externally evident, like you were mentioning Vrindavan, and also in chapter 10, how, there's all these different ways we can meditate to see Krishna in everything, which is of course the goal, as Hansarupa was saying last week, that's what samadhi is to be conscious of Krishna in all circumstances, always connecting. But if you could speak more on how we do that without it being like mental speculation, without it being like some kind of sentimental, like something contrived. What is the process to see things in that transcendental way?
Well, true spiritual vision is something that is given to us. We can't, like you say, artificially manifest the eyes that see beyond the externals and see the reality, the spiritual reality. So we have to see through the eyes of Scripture. When we don't have the actual spiritual vision, we must see through the eyes, Shastra Chakshus, the eyes of Shastra, the eyes of Guru, what Guru gives us, Chakudan Diloje. So those eyes. So using those eyes, we can perceive the spiritual reality. But there's a little bit of a disconnect between what our physical eyes are seeing and what our intelligence and our scriptural connection is seeing. And so, but we continue. We keep those two visions. We can't. How you should say. Ignore what our senses present and just say it's. Of course, we do, in one sense, recognize that it's illusory. It's not the real thing. So it's one step towards being able to manifest more of a spiritual vision, is to recognize the illusory quality of our material vision. And I would suggest that this manifests in us, especially as we more and more begin to feel and see ourselves or experience ourselves as spiritual entities, not our bodies. The more we look at our bodies and say, no, not me. That's the beginning. The more and more we can look at we can experience what our sensual experiences and say, this is not me. Then that begins to extend more and more, and then we can maybe be able to see those senses that have been purified in that way, of seeing, no, this is not me. This is material. Seeing what's material as being material. Those senses can begin to go a little further to perceive the spiritual beyond the material. So I think that's the process that I'm seeing, I'm experiencing, that it begins with seeing yourself for or seeing who you are, seeing what this is. And then when you go to places like Vrindavan or Mayapur or whatever, and you see the externals there, you can understand that this is external. This is the external. Just like this is not me, that is not that. That all of that commotion and all of this stuff that goes on in Vrindavan and so on, the cars and the traffic and the pollution and the garbage and the hogs and the everything, that's not Vrindavan. That's the external. That's just like this is not me. That's not Vrindavan. Vrindavan is beyond that. And we can, just like I connect with you and we connect with each other through these bodies, but we're not our bodies. So similarly, we can connect, we can go and make a connection with the spiritual Vrindavan through the physical manifestation, the dust and the trees and the temples and the cows. And we can see, when we see those and see as means to go a little deeper and to connect into what's behind it. Does that answer your question? Yes, Matanga.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. I wanted to ask you if you could please help me understand. There is one very famous video interview, Srila Prabhupada. It's on YouTube, anybody can access it, where Srila Prabhupada is like explicitly explaining how the woman's brain is smaller than the man's brain. And he's clearly trying to make a point, and which is, it's quite controversial, especially in the modern context of nowadays. So if you can please explain that point.
Yeah, of course, he quotes his professor in that conversation. He quotes his professor that he, according to so-and-so. So this is information that he received, and he considered significant, which later, though it is a fact that yes, there is a difference but it's not the difference. I mean, the difference that Prabhupada was speaking about of being like double or something like that it has not, with later research. So it's, in other words, this is something that we have to deal with, is that sometimes Srila Prabhupada would speak on the basis of information that he has received. This has happened in terms of our personal experience, our practical experience working with Srila Prabhupada. Not me personally, but I've known, where on the basis of some information that he's received about a particular situation, he would come to a certain conclusion, and when he got different information, he would change his conclusion. So, but his point, I think, he used that as some evidence to describe the difference between men and women. And it is my understanding that Srila Prabhupada's view of the intelligence of men and women was nuanced by generality. In other words, he was speaking in sort of in this general terms about the general quality of intelligence in men and women. And the perception is that there is a difference. And that he was trying to bring out the difference between male and female intelligence. That the quality of female intelligence is particularly designed for a woman's role in society. And that a male's intelligence is designed for a male's role in society. There is no doubt in my mind that Srila Prabhupada promoted and saw, based on Shastra, that men and women have different roles in society, in a healthy human society. that that the modern conception that men and women should have no restriction, or they should be free to accept whatever role they would like, is not consistent with the Vedic perception. Just as men should not accept any role that they like. Men without the qualification should not accept a position of being a Kshatriya, for example. If they're not qualified to be Kshatriyas, they shouldn't be Kshatriyas. So everyone has their particular role in society according to the Vedic system. But they're all equal spiritually. They all have spiritual equality, and they're all connected. Every role is connected to another. So one, just like for men and women, they naturally become connected through marriage, and they're considered two halves of the same body. And they're meant to complement and work together. So this, I believe, is Srila Prabhupada's point, is to try to emphasize that to have a healthy human society, men and women should be related according to their specific qualities and their specific roles and contributions. So, because intelligence is such a, you should say it's a, defining intelligence is not easy. There's many, people talk about IQ tests, right? But there are many people who are extraordinarily intelligent who do very poorly on IQ tests because culturally they were not brought up according to the systems that test proves. Similarly, brain size is another thing that doesn't, if you study the size of Einstein's brain, it's smaller than other person's. Yeah, according to currents, it's the density of, not the weight of it, and so on. So these, I think that Srila Prabhupada, this is my personal opinion, and others may have a different opinion, that Srila Prabhupada, he was using these exec teacher to bring out a point, and that Srila Prabhupada would do this. He would use things that he would take from the world to bring out certain points. So there's a system of understanding things called hermeneutics, and hermeneutics is a how to explain, how to understand Shastra particularly, and in our case, Srila Prabhupada. And I believe that part of this is to take, there's three things. Something can be universal, absolute, and always true. There is something that can be universal but is according to a particular time and circumstance. And there are other things that are specifically within a context. So my answer to you is that statement and that conversation was in a context of trying to bring out a very specific point in a specific time, and that it should be understood in terms of its message, not in terms of its necessarily in terms of its specifics, which may be difficult to substantiate. That's a very poor answer, I know, and I don't think I'm probably going to be in some controversy, but anyway. And we're out of time, 5 minutes past time. And according to yesterday's, someone was very happy that the person ended on time. So we can continue, we'll stop here, we'll turn off the everything like that, but we can continue talking if you want to. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for my poor attempt to deal with this, and hope I didn't offend anyone. Hare Krishna.